how Japanese people organize their kitchen to cut 40% of food waste. Have you ever opened your fridge and felt overwhelmed not by what's missing, but by everything that's just sitting there? Expired jars at the back, wilted greens forgotten in a drawer, leftovers you meant to use but never did. In a world where food is abundant, yet so often wasted, our kitchens quietly reflect a deeper kind of disconnect between intention and action, between having and appreciating. In Japanese culture, food is never just nourishment. It's a gift, a responsibility, and often a reflection of how we live. That's why the Japanese approach to organizing their kitchens is so different. It's not just about keeping things neat. It's about living with care, planning with purpose, using with gratitude, and wasting as little as possible. Rooted in philosophies like Madanai, Seri, and Danshari, this mindset invites us to see our kitchens not just as storage spaces, but as sacred grounds for presence, intention, and quiet transformation. And yet, what makes this practice powerful isn't how it looks, it's how it feels. A Japanese kitchen may appear simple, but behind that simplicity is a system of choices deeply connected to time, season, and soul. Every container, every label, every grouping serves as a reminder. You already have enough, and what you have deserves to be honored. In this video, we're going to explore 7 deeply thoughtful practices the Japanese use to reduce food waste by up to 40%. Not rules to follow rigidly, but gentle shifts to help you see your fridge, your food, and your daily life with new eyes. Let's begin, one habit at a time. 1. Designate a use soon zone in the refrigerator. Have you ever opened your fridge and felt like you didn't really know what was in there? That strange sense of disconnection, staring at shelves full of food, yet unsure what needs to be used soon, what's already too old, or what's still safe to eat. It doesn't just lead to waste. It creates a quiet kind of anxiety. It's like living in a home where nothing speaks to each other, where everything sits in silence, forgotten. The Japanese have a beautiful concept called matanai, a gentle reminder that everything holds value, that we should honor each ingredient, each leaf of spinach, each drop of milk, instead of letting them quietly wilt away in the dark corners of the fridge. From that spirit, they created a use soon zone, a designated space in the fridge for items nearing their expiration, a simple but powerful cue to keep them in sight, in mind, and in use. It's not a strict rule. It's an act of awareness. Like saving a special seat for a friend who's about to leave, not out of duty, but out of quiet gratitude for their presence before they're gone. When you open the fridge and see that little corner maybe marked by a clear tray or a small sticky note, something in your mind shifts. Using up food doesn't feel like a chore anymore. It becomes a quiet promise to yourself. I won't let anything go to waste, not even this almost too ripe tomato. In Japan, many families have adopted this as a way of life. It's a small habit, but one that ripples through everything. Not just to reduce the 30–40% of household food that often ends up discarded each year, but to live more consciously, more deeply, in every small decision we make. Instead of constantly buying more, they learn to pause and reflect. Instead of forgetting, they learn to remember. One person even said that their little use soon tray made them feel like a chef curating a menu, not someone just clearing out the fridge. It became a creative ritual, not a stressful one. In the spirit of kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold to celebrate its scars, aging ingredients, can be an invitation to create, to care, to give thanks. A dried green onion, an opened carton of milk from 3 days ago, a handful of leftover veggies from the weekend. When placed in a visible, honored spot labeled, acknowledged, and welcomed, these once forgotten bits become the heart of a warm, intentional meal. Your outer space reflects the quiet within. When your fridge becomes clear, calm, and intentional, so does your mind. Opening the door is no longer a confrontation with chaos, it's a quiet moment of mindfulness, a touch point with your deeper self. Sure, you might forget to check the zone on busy days, you might overcrowd it at times, but the simple awareness of its presence, the knowing that you're listening to your kitchen and listening to yourself, is what truly shifts things. Cutting waste doesn't begin with throwing things out. It begins by putting something in its rightful place, a little corner, a bit of care, a slow breath in the middle of a fast life. This isn't just about organizing your fridge, it's about reorganizing your presence and how fully you show up in the everyday. 2. Use transparent trays and containers. Have you ever opened your fridge and felt like everything was there, yet nothing was truly visible? You're not sure what you have. You can't tell what's inside that cloudy container, and you don't quite remember where you left those scallions from yesterday. Opaque lids, murky plastic bags, layers stacked one over the other, they turn a simple task like grabbing what you need into something unexpectedly draining. But the Japanese have a different way, gentle, clear, and deeply intentional. They use transparent trays and containers, not because it's trendy, but because it reflects a deeper way of living. Nothing can be truly appreciated unless it's first seen. In the philosophy of Seri, one of the core principles of the 5S method, sorting and organizing isn't just about tidying, it's about ensuring nothing silently disappears. A transparent box lets you see everything inside without even lifting the lid. A shallow tray ensures even the smallest ingredients don't get buried. When everything is visible, things begin to speak. And we, the ones living, cooking, and caring, begin to reconnect with the choices we've made, the food we've brought home, the things we've stored with intention or neglect. The fridge is no longer a place where leftovers get crammed in. It becomes a space of quiet order, of understated beauty, of breath like the tatami mats in a Japanese home, where every square fits harmoniously with the next in serene rhythm. Using clear containers becomes a quiet form of meditation. You start to rearrange not because someone told you to, but because you want to see your life more clearly. You no longer need to mentally track every item because your fridge now tells its own story through clarity and calm. When food is sorted into transparent trays, arranged with care, and presented in a visually gentle way, your mind follows. Looking for ingredients isn't a scramble anymore, it becomes a small moment of peace. No more digging, no more guessing, just seeing and choosing. What's clear no longer causes worry. That's the feeling when every container is easy to see, easy to reach, easy to remember. And that's when you begin to enjoy even the act of opening the fridge, not to face clutter, but to step into a space that breathes with intention. Of course, some days you'll feel like cleaning those bins is yet another thing on your list. But if you make it part of a quiet, weekly rhythm like the Japanese practice of asuji, then cleaning becomes less of a task and more of a ritual. A clean tray isn't just hygienic. It's a fresh start, a small commitment not to let things go to waste. As a Japanese saying goes, your outer space is a reflection of the quiet within. The fridge holds your food, but more than that, it reflects how you live, how you pay attention, how you care for what you have. And from that one transparent container, not only is your food more visible, but maybe, in that simple act of tending, you start to see yourself more clearly too. 3. Label with dates and messages. In the rush of daily life, there's something surprisingly small that can slowly disconnect us from our own kitchen. Forgetting a container without a date, leftovers no one remembers, subtle signs that, over time, turn food into waste simply because we no longer remember when it was meant to be appreciated. But in Japan, that forgetting doesn't happen in silence. They write things down, a date, a message, a note of intention. Labeling food with dates and little reminders isn't just about tracking freshness, it's an act of care. It turns nameless objects into something seen, something remembered, something touched by attention. In the spirit of Seri, everything should be arranged and named to become part of a mindful order. And with Ichigo Ichi, each moment, no matter how small, is a once-in-a-lifetime encounter. So, when you write a note on a food container, it's no longer just food. It becomes a slice of time you chose to honor, a fleeting moment made tangible. Instead of relying on your memory to hold everything, let a simple pen take that weight off your mind. Use by Tuesday, carrots for soup, or even take care of tomorrow's you. These tiny notes, short and sweet, create a warm bridge between you and your ingredients. As if every time you open the fridge, you don't just see food, you see the care you offered yourself yesterday, gently waiting for today. A yogurt cup may just be a yogurt cup, but when it says, "for a gentle morning," it becomes a nudge, a quiet reminder that even on the busiest days, you deserve a soft, nourishing start. These small labels also reflect one of the most essential truths in minimalist living. If an item no longer serves the heart, it must go. If something doesn't create connection, doesn't spark awareness, then holding on only adds weight. But with just one handwritten line, that forgotten item can stir a feeling, spark a memory, restore intention. Updating your labels can become its own ritual woven into your weekly fridge check. Not a chore, but a quiet dialogue between you and your kitchen. You see what's running low. Move things nearing their end to the use soon zone. Rewrite faded labels, or simply replace an old note with a new one full of encouragement. In that way, the fridge stops being a random storage space. It becomes something alive, something that mirrors your mind, clear, calm, cared for. Labeling stops being a task. It becomes a soft act of gratitude. When we write things down, we remember more than just the item, we remember to appreciate it. When we label, we're not just organizing, we're slowing down. And sometimes, writing one small thing may be exactly what brings a little peace into a very busy day. 4. Photograph contents for accountability. Have you ever walked into a grocery store, stood in front of all the shelves, and quietly asked yourself, what do I still have in the fridge at home? That small uncertainty, so easy to overlook, is often the quiet beginning of waste. A bag of greens you already had, a carton of milk already opened, something that once existed clearly in your space but slowly faded into the background, hidden behind layers of newer things, forgotten without meaning to. In Japan, they choose to remember not with effort, but with images. Not a spontaneous act, but a gentle ritual, photographing the inside of the fridge as a way to connect today with tomorrow. One click of the camera, and you're anchoring your awareness a moment that holds responsibility, intention, and respect for what already exists. When you look at a photo of your fridge before heading out to shop, you don't just shop on impulse. You're pausing to listen to what your kitchen is already saying, to what your past choices have left behind. That quiet pause is a form of ichigo ichi, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to choose well, choose just enough, choose with presence. Not everyone can remember everything they've stored, but your photo remembers for you. It keeps you from doubling up on what you don't need, helps you avoid letting good food go to waste, and most importantly, transform shopping from a reflex into a conversation with the life you're already living. Taking photos of your fridge contents is also a subtle act of wabi-sabi, because when you look back at those images, you don't just see food. You see things aging. You see both missteps and progress. You see where you overbought, and when you learn to scale back. The imperfections begin to mean something, and you stop judging yourself. You begin observing, accepting, and gently shifting. When this becomes a habit, you might take one photo a week. Maybe you'll add little notes about what's running low. Maybe you'll mark certain items with "don't buy more" reminders. Maybe you'll compare last week's photo with this week's to notice how your habits are changing, how your awareness is slowly becoming part of your routine. And in that process, you're not just documenting your fridge. You're documenting your growth in each quiet rearrangement, each moment of thoughtful restraint, each decision not to act out of habit but out of care. Every time you open your fridge, you're looking into your way of living. That thought may sound simple, but once you start photographing your fridge weekly, you'll realize how true it really is. Because when you can clearly see what you already have, your heart begins to feel lighter, less scrambling, less waste, less guilt, and more choices made with gratitude. 5. Employ a food management app. There's something quite beautiful about this. When used with intention, technology can become your most thoughtful companion in the kitchen. Not loud, not controlling, just quietly reminding you of what's already there before it slips through the cracks of forgetfulness. In Japanese culture, the idea of motonai teaches us that nothing should be wasted, not just objects, but the potential within them. And in today's world, one of the simplest ways to honor that value is by using a food management app, not to replace intuition, but to support it. Like a soft nudge saying, "Hey, these greens need your attention," or "There's milk you opened 4 days ago." These small details often disappear in the noise of daily life, not because we don't care, but because we carry too much at once. With the help of an app, you don't need to remember everything. The reminders come gently. The lists appear clearly. And suddenly, your kitchen doesn't feel like a guessing game. It feels like a space of clarity. When everything is visible, your mind is at ease. It's almost surprising how just 10 minutes a week spent logging your fridge and pantry can reduce food waste by as much as 30%. Not through strict discipline, but through awareness. You stop overbuying. You stop forgetting. You begin to feel more connected to the food you already have. What's even more powerful is how seamlessly this digital practice can blend with your analog routines, checking your use soon zone, updating handwritten labels, or doing a quiet weekly fridge reset. Together, they form a rhythm that balances modern ease with mindful tradition. Your outer space is a reflection of your inner stillness. When your kitchen is organized, calm, and no longer filled with the noise of forgotten things, your mind mirrors that peace. Meals no longer feel like a scramble, they become moments of choice, rooted in clarity and care. The app doesn't replace your habits, it simply supports them. A gentle evening reminder, a focus on fresh items like produce and dairy, a few minutes each weekend to review and reset. It's a rhythm, not a routine. A way of life that listens, adjusts, and appreciates both the fullness and the learning moments of your food journey. In the spirit of Danshari, simplicity doesn't begin by cutting things out. It begins by choosing with intention. And if your phone can help remind you of that, then it's no longer just a device. It becomes part of your healing rhythm, where every ingredient is remembered, every meal is prepared with quiet gratitude, and every day is lived just a little more awake. 6. Group similar foods together. Some changes in how we organize things may seem small, but they quietly reshape the way we feel about our space and even our lives, like grouping similar foods together. It sounds simple, but in the Japanese way of living, it's an act filled with intention and meaning. Because every time you open your fridge and see vegetables gathered in one place, dairy set apart, meats clearly assigned their own space, you're not just cutting down the time it takes to find what you need, you're creating clarity in your mind. You're choosing order over chaos. And from that shift, forgotten items become visible again, no longer buried in a mess of randomness. The Japanese call this principle seri, to sort so you can see, to use, and so nothing goes to waste. Just like in a professional kitchen where every ingredient has its place for speed and precision, grouping food at home allows you to see what you already have and plan your meals more intentionally, using what's fresh before it slips past its time. When food is grouped thoughtfully, you begin to notice its rhythms, the vegetables that need to be eaten first, the milk that's approaching its expiration, the meats that could be portioned and frozen. What was once easy to forget is now right in front of you, not to rush through, but to use with care and at the right moment. In the spirit of wabi-sabi, this act of organizing carries a quiet kind of beauty, the beauty of impermanence. Food doesn't last forever, so by giving it a place, naming it, sometimes even reorganizing it seasonally, you're honoring its fleeting nature. You're tuning in to the soft shifts of everyday life. It can begin with something small, a bin just for leafy greens, a spot for nuts and legumes, a shelf for dairy. Then, as the seasons change, you adjust. Berries and tomatoes in summer, root vegetables in winter. There's no fixed formula, just a willingness to adapt with time and respond with thoughtfulness. Your outer space is a reflection of the quiet within. When your fridge becomes organized and intentional, your mind follows. Cooking no longer feels rushed. It becomes a form of presence. You're not reacting in haste. You're choosing from a calm place, where everything is already prepared for you to act with clarity. Of course, you may forget to rotate things now and then, or feel like your fridge is too small when trying to group too much. But a little weekly attention, especially during clean-out time, is enough to realign things. Just as the Japanese often say, kire ni suru, to make something beautiful, not only through cleaning, but through meaningful arrangement. And in that, the groups of food in your fridge become more than storage strategies. They become part of a slower, more intentional rhythm where you know what you have and you choose to use it with care. 7. Batch planning and preparation. Among many quiet habits in the Japanese kitchen, there's one that often goes unnoticed, yet it holds the power to gently reshape the way we live. Batch planning and preparation. At first glance, it might seem like just a practical way to save time, but beneath that surface lies something deeper in awareness. An awareness of what's already in your fridge, of what's about to expire if left unused, and of the fleeting nature of your time, which gets pulled thinner each day by things that feel urgent. In Japan, this practice is known as shokuji keikaku meal planning, not just for convenience, but to avoid waste. When you take even just a couple of hours each week to check what's in your kitchen, sketch out a few meals, wash vegetables, chop ingredients, and portion them into clear containers, you're no longer cooking from a place of fatigue or randomness, you're cooking from a place of readiness. And from that readiness comes lightness. You stop overbuying because you already know what you'll eat today and what's planned for tomorrow. That bunch of greens doesn't go limp because you forgot about it. Each meal emerges right on time from what you already have and is received with a quiet sense of gratitude. Batch prepping doesn't make you rigid, it frees you. You gain more space to rest, to improvise, to be creative. Prepped ingredients can be rotated into different meals throughout the week. You don't start from scratch every time you step into the kitchen. You start from a place that already supports you. There's a quiet elegance in this, a spirit of shokunin, the Japanese craftsman mindset, in the way you slice, portion, and arrange, in how you label containers and plan your meals. Each movement becomes a thread in a deeper rhythm, one that is thoughtful, deliberate, and deeply human. And just like in Danshari, the path to less waste doesn't begin by discarding. It begins by honoring what's necessary, using it in time, and refusing to waste even the smallest moment or the smallest sprig of green onion left behind. When you take one morning a week, say, Sunday, to sit down with your fridge, plan out what you'll cook, prep a few basics, and organize everything into your use-soon area, you're not just planning meals. You're resetting your mind. You're turning your kitchen into more than a place to cook, into a place to live, with intention, care, and softness. Your outer space is a reflection of your inner stillness. And when there is calm within you, the kitchen no longer feels like a cluttered battlefield of leftovers and lost plans. It becomes a gentle space of nourishment, where each meal is prepared with presence, each breath is slower, and every choice feels just a little more whole. If this video made you pause and reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Write, "I choose to live mindfully," as a small promise to yourself. And if you've started embracing any minimalist habits in your kitchen or in your life, share how that journey is shifting the way you live. Thank you for staying with me until the end, for giving yourself permission to slow down, to listen, and to open up to a new way of being. Remember, transformation doesn't begin with grand gestures. It begins in the tiniest choices, like where you place a bunch of greens, how you label a container, or how fully you show up for the meals you prepare. And maybe today is that quiet starting point. I truly hope we meet again on this gentle, meaningful path towards simplicity. See you in the next video.